In this tutorial, I'm going to create a simple side quest to go with the first-person shooter we've been looking at over the course of these videos. The first-person shooter components were built by Torsten at .enterprise, an independent developer building with the Sinespace SDK. The quest system I'm going to show now is an integral part of Sinespace itself. It allows you to create linear or branching quests with a collection of preset steps that you can pick from that need no scripting at all, and the ability to drop in your own custom scripted step types if you want to. In this quest, I have a dumpster with a padlock and a key. I have a gun giver inside with a unique gun. I'm going to wire it up so the player clicks the padlock to start the quest. Then they get led via a visible navmesh guide to the key. Then they bring the key back to the dumpster, it opens and gives them a special gun. The gun giver is exactly the same as the gun giver profiled in this series of videos. When you make a second gun giver, you'll want to duplicate all 3 gun parts. You might want a new bullet type, a new ammo crate for that bullet, new muzzle flash, etc. When you wire up the new set of guns, ammo and gun giver, you need to add your new barrels to the resources, as I have done here. Remember to give it a different order number to your first gun so they sit next to each other in the gun bar. Give it another name. I'm going to call mine Gun 1 and Gun 2. I have a new icon for this gun and a new bullet type 2, but I've kept the same animation controller. Instead of leaving the gun giver on the floor like my first one, I'm putting it inside the dumpster and disabling it in the inspector. Now I'm going to add a component to the dumpster. I search for quest and add the quest designer. I'm going to give the quest a name and I'm going to reserve an ID. I can see in this drop down there are type options. A main quest can only be done once by a player. A daily quest can be done once per day per player. An activity quest can be repeated over and over, but you have to complete it before you can restart it. It is persistent across sessions. I'm going to set this one as temporary, which means it resets over sessions. If I log out and log in again, I will not be halfway through the quest. It will have reverted to being unplayed. Quest dependencies give me the option to chain quests together. I could set this one not to be accessible until you complete a prior quest. Incidentally, there is a whole playlist on the quest system in our YouTube channel that takes you through every step in detail. I'm just going to scratch the surface here to show how this dovetails with the shooter game components. Now I open the quest canvas. I have the option to create new steps. I'm going to create 5 steps, which should be enough for this quest. I click New 5 times and move the steps out into the canvas. The steps have a drop down for type. You can see some of the basic types are here: visit location, conversation. But the first quest is locked to NPC. This step is the initiation of the quest and is usually triggered by clicking something or someone that the quest considers to be an NPC. In this case, I'm going to make clicking the lock the initiation of the quest. So I'm going to come to the lock and put a component on this, the quest NPC component. You can put this onto a character or trigger it from a canvas button. There's also an auto start component that I can put on the quest designer if you want the quest to start automatically without the player doing anything. But be careful using that without some kind of trigger in your region starting the quest itself. Otherwise you could drag a visiting user into a process they haven't opted into. I'm not going to auto start this one, but on the quest NPC I am going to click to hide the dialog panel. This is an optional extra step that you can show the user so they can read about the quest before opting in. But inside an arena with other people running around shooting you in the back, I just want to cut to the chase as fast as possible. I'm going to leave the quest bang visible so people can see easily that there is something interactive on offer. I come back to the quest canvas, and in the destination NPC on the first step, I'm going to add the lock. Now the lock will be visibly clickable, and that will initiate the quest for the player. I'm going to set the second step type to conversation. Here you can see I can add actors and I can add dialogue steps. If I want to, I can bind the player to a fixed location, I can set camera angles, I can play animations, trigger events, play audio files, I can compose entire cutscenes in here if I want to. But this quest is taking place inside a multiplayer environment and I don't want to hold up the player. So I'm going to distill the critical information they need as fast as I can, and I'm not going to stop the player from moving around during the conversation. I need a minimum of one actor, who I will call Captain Smith. I can leave the NPC object blank because I'm not going to be triggering any animations or lip-syncing any audio files to a visible biped in the scene. I add a single dialogue beat, and I add the information the player needs to the dialogue panel. Find the key, there is a great gun inside this dumpster. If I ticked continue on this dialogue beat, the player would have to click continue to move to the next step of the quest, but I don't want to enforce that either in the middle of an arena battle, particularly as you would have to come out of mouse view to click the continue button. So instead I'm going to put a time limit on the step of 6 seconds. Then the step will move on automatically and the text will disappear. I'm going to add an audio file with a recording of the same information. On the third step, I'm going to choose Type Collection. This means the player has to click one item somewhere in the scene to move the step on. Now I'm going to the key and I'm adding the quest NPC component to this too. Again, I'm going to disable the dialogue but leave the quest bang visible. Now I add this to the collection step. The user will now be able to click the key to progress the quest, but again they would have to come out of mouse look to do so. So I'm going to add another proximity activator. I'm going to set it to client only, and I'm going to set the maximum distance to 5. I'm going to open 2 events on activation. I'm going to drag the quest in, and I'm going to set the function to quest designer next step. And I know that the next step in the quest chain is step number 3. This will automatically progress the quest when the user comes within proximity of the key. Now I'm going to reference the key in the second event, and I'm going to set it to game object inactive so it disappears when we progress to the next stage. Now I add another conversation step from Smith. You got it, head back to the dumpster. On the next step, I set a visit location type. I add the dumpster to this reference. I don't need this to have a quest NPC component on it because it isn't clickable. I just need to get within the radius, which I'll set here at 5 meters, of the item, and the step will automatically complete and the quest will move on. My next step is another conversation step. Well done, here you go, this gun is amazing. Now, inside this dialogue beat, I'm going to create 2 events in the before dialogue section. In the first event, I'm going to set the gun giver to enabled. Now, I'm going to create an animator on the parent object, and I'm going to create a trigger parameter called open. I'm going to create a new state and a new transition, and I'm going to set the condition on the transition to open. I'm going to keyframe opening the lid and lifting up the gun giver. Now I'm going to return to my quest step, and I'm going to reference that in the second event in this dialogue beat. The collider on the gun giver has a large radius, much larger than the ones on the gun givers I have laid out as furniture items, so the player will get the gun just standing next to the dumpster. That's all I need to do. You can see there are also options for rewards, where I can give persistent inventory items to the player. I could give them a clothing item or whatever I want, but this is very much intended as a session-specific event, putting a gun into this temporary inventory inside the arena game. Now I add the room furniture component and the virtual good component. I upload it as a furniture item, and now a player in their own map can choose where the dumpster goes, and then they can separately drag the key to another location of their choice in the map. I'm going to put it around this corner and surround it with enemy NPCs. Because there is a nav mesh in the scene, the player will get a visual guide telling them where to go. If I want to hide that, I can suppress it on a step-by-step basis in the quest designer here. So now I have an interactive side quest that gives a special gun type, and my players can create unique challenges for how you fight your way to the key and back again before unlocking the weapon.